Hey guys, welcome back to the Journaling Hour. This is our second episode, and if you came for the first episode, then you know I mentioned this page up front that I never actually showed you guys. So I wanted to come back and show that and show some of the things that I added in after I turned off the camera. That being said, probably like 10 minutes after I turned off the camera, I decided I wasn't ready to stop journaling, so I turned it back on and kept journaling. So, this video I actually filmed right after I did the first journaling hour video, and that means I hadn't edited the footage and seen how weird this camera angle was or noticed that you can't read the pencil marking that I make as I'm writing in pencil. So I don't have any corrections to that footage or to this footage. There's still some issues that I'm working out, but I should have all of that fixed for episode 3. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for bearing with me. Um, that being said, let's get into this episode. It is not live, just like the last one was not live, which means that I've already created these spreads and I've already written a description that includes what pins and supplies I used for the page. You can find that in the description if you want to follow along. Another housekeeping item, I actually sped this up. So in the first episode, everything is real time, but because this is setup footage, it feels like it drags out. Of course, part of that is because I'm spending time penciling in things, and I don't think that that's something you guys particularly want to see. I don't know if you guys are actually journaling along, which at that point, maybe you do like the downtime of being able to do that. But since you can't see the pencil markings, you don't actually know what it is that I'm journaling, so that's less helpful. Um, so I sped this video up because I really just wanted to get done with the setup and go straight into the actual Bible study where I'm not really doing a whole lot of penciling in and setting up. And we actually have something to talk about. That way, people who may not be as interested in the journaling aspect can still listen in for the Bible study aspect. But also, if you are interested in the journaling aspect, you can journal along as well. Either way, I just felt like I didn't want multiple more videos of setup. But because I didn't show this part yet, I didn't want to jump straight into the Bible study. Either I wanted to give you guys time to get there. So I sped up this page and the next page and put them together in this one episode. That way, the next episode, we can go straight into Bible studies. So, with that being said, this page that I'm working on right now actually took a full hour. And the next page that I do in this video also took a full hour. So it took me 2 hours to do the content that I'm showing you in this 1 hour video. I just want to disclaim that up front so you don't feel like, why is it taking me so long to do this? Also, some of the time is me trying to pick out which pins that I want to use. That's also something that I may change up in the future episodes where I may try to think through the layout a little bit more and have all of that ready up front. I will say, when I sit down to journal, usually I don't think that far ahead. So that's something that I would be doing specifically for the YouTube channel and not something that's part of my normal journaling practices. Um, if you are somebody who is trying out journaling for the first time or you're still trying to get in the swing of journaling, this is one of those things that I feel like could go either way. Like the ambiguity and the creativity of picking what colors and what pens you use on the fly may appeal to you, but it also may drive you crazy. Like, you may sit there and be like, I hate this. This is too open ended. I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. And so you may want to plan things out a little bit more. Again, Also, you don't necessarily have to use colors and different pens. You can do things in black and white, and that takes this step out. That cuts down on your time and it makes it more straightforward. So, just some ideas for you as you go on your own journaling journey. That's kind of hard to say. But anyway, this page that I am creating is actually a recreation. I had already created this page and I really liked how it turned out. So I wanted this page in this journal because it really speaks to the heart of what I wanted to study, or the heart of what I discovered while I was studying the women of the Bible. So it is a list of verbs that can be attributed to the actions performed by women of the Bible. Now, there are a lot of things that women in the Bible do. There are good women and bad women in the Bible, or shall I say, protagonists and antagonists. And I'm only including the role models here, the ones that I actually would like to imitate in life, that I think God gave us these examples for us to learn from and to be like, not the people that we're supposed to learn from and not be like. So I chose 12 different women. There are probably a lot more than 12 that we could have come up with different verbs that, you know, are pertaining to women of God. But I liked the number 12. It's complete. It's the number of disciples, it's the number of tribes. It just felt like the right number. And when I originally created this page, I actually was sitting down reading about different women and trying to make out the list and coming up with the adjectives. So the original page probably took me more than an hour to create because I was doing a Bible study on these different women while I was creating the page. And that's something that's kind of lost in this copy that I'm showing you guys, because I don't know, because here I'm just copying it over word for word. But I did want to point that out because that's part of the journaling process, is like sitting down and reading the word and thinking about the story that you're reading and how that relates to us today, and what attributes or characteristics of that person, are godly attributes that we should be imitating as well. And so it's a deeper than just writing out these words. But as I'm copying it over, I do remember the women that I studied. So I definitely remember what I learned as I was doing this first page, as I'm copying it for the second page. But I'm not gonna stop and do the full, I guess, thought process and study of it, because we're going to talk about each of these women when we get to them in the journal. Now, the original page, if you can tell in the video, is larger than my journal. The original page is 8.5 by 11. My journal is 7.3 by 10.1. So, very different sizes, which means that I had to do some math to shrink this page down to fit on the other page. There are 3 boxes per line, with 3 boxes at the top and 4 boxes at the bottom. I'm telling you this, I don't know why, because the math may work out different for your journal, whether you're using an A5 or a B5, or you're using your 8.5 by 11. Ultimately, the way I determined it is, I know that I have 12 women. I actually counted it as 13 lines because Mary Magdalene is the last woman on the list, and her name is so long that it took up 2 lines. So I say, okay, I have 13 lines that I want to fit on the page, and then I count up the number of, grids or lines or whatever you have in your journal, from the top to the bottom, and I divide that number by 13, and I round down. So in this case, it was 3 point something something something. So I round down to 3 and I make each line 3 lines long, or 3 boxes long. And then I tack, I multiply that 3 times 13, and then I subtract that number from the overall number to figure out how much is left over, and then divide that in two to get what should be at the top and the bottom for me to center it on the page. So if you do this often, then you know that, and you've probably done it before. If you're new to journaling, in particular to grid layouts or dot grid layouts, then this is typically how I try to center things and figure out how big or small I can write things on a page. This type of math and coordination I really only do for pages like this, where I'm purposefully trying to fit everything in a specific area, and when I purposely want it to be centered on the page. As we get deeper into the studies, when I'm just kind of doing, a like a notes or something, I don't typically worry about that, and I'm not really concerned about, like, oh, I'm studying this person, I want all of the notes for this person to fit on one page. In those cases, I usually just kind of free flow it, and where it ends up, it ends up. And so that makes it a little bit easier, but doing all of that math and stuff is what takes a lot of time for setting up these pages. And another reason why I kind of want to get through the setup and into the next section of the journal. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things here. Number one, I messed up on this page, even though the original page does not have either mistake that I made. And I penciled it in and looked at it and still wrote it in pen without noticing that I made these mistakes. They are spelling errors. I misspelled the word persevere. I added an extra R. This is a word that I struggle with and have always struggled with. For some reason, my brain is convinced there is an extra R in persevere. I think I say the word wrong, and that's why it's in my head that there's an extra R. I don't know. But either way, I misspelled that. And then when I get to the bottom and write out the word witness, I misspelled that as well, and I added an extra T. These are things that I did not fix for a couple of different reasons. One, transparency. Two, this is my personal journal, so I didn't think it was that big of a deal. If I was creating this for commercial purposes, or if I was creating it as a gift for someone else, I think I would have felt more inclined to make it quote unquote perfect. That's also something that I've been working on in general, is letting go of perfectionism. The purpose of journaling altogether for me is to spend more time in the Word, and to spend more time with God, and to study and to think about the concepts. It's not like, yes, I enjoy the art. Yes, it's a creative outlet, but the point is not to create a perfect masterpiece. And so I'm trying to let go of some of that perfectionism. So that also led me to leave it there. But then the cherry on top, and probably the most compelling reason for why I didn't fix it, is because the pen selection that I used and the size of the letters that I mess up is so large that it makes it very difficult to fix. Typically, when I make mistakes in pen, there are three methods that I can use to fix it. One is to use whiteout, or not whiteout. Um, well, we can use that one first. So, whiteout tape. Whiteout tape is a method that you can use. You just kind of roll it over the area that you messed up, and then you can write back over it. This works if you have white paper. If you have slightly off white paper, it doesn't work as well. But Whiteout tape is very smooth and it's often not exactly the same white as your paper. So, a couple of different things happen when you use that. And in particular, when you use that with gel pens, if you do this with a Sakura jelly roll, it is 10,000 times more likely to smear and it's not going to dry the same color as the text that you wrote on your paper. So it's going to look a little off. And because this word is 3 boxes large and not just one box, it's going to be very large. Fixing small mistakes is easy. A large, 3 line tall letter is very hard to use the whiteout tape with, and it creates kind of this like white box that becomes a lot more obvious and it's just kind of in your face. The second method, which I was trying to say first and got tongue tied, is a white gel pen or a white paint pen. The same kind of issue happens here is that if you just have like a tiny thing or maybe you just colored outside of the lines, it's really easy to like clean up something, but it's not great for a large area. And also both the gel pen and the paint pen kind of cause like a raised area on the page so you can feel it when you run your hand across it. And sometimes you can slightly see it or see like the shadow of it on the text. So I didn't want to do that. The final option is using a sticker to cover up the mistake. Now, this works really well if it's kind of off to the side and you can just put a sticker over the whole thing and then revamp your entire design around your new sticker. But also, like, if I have like a heading, a lot of times then I will just create a piece of paper across the entire top of the page and I will do something decorative with the new strip of paper and it makes it look like it was supposed to be there and it's kind of like adding in a sticker even though it's just a blank piece of paper where I rewrote whatever it was that I had. But because this is not a heading, it's one of the verbs that's listed. I would have just had the word persevere with like this raised paper sticker ish looking effect, and the other words would not have been like that. So that would have been really weird. I would have needed to do every single one of the words like that for it to look normal. Um, and maybe for the original page, I could have done that and put like boxes around them and made it more decorative. But these words have no space in between them. They are literally right on top of each other. So it would have been very difficult to fit in there and to make it look like something. And also adding more design to it, I feel like would have made it look busy because we already have multiple fonts going on. We have multiple colors going on. We don't need like raised boxes and things as well. So that just left the only other option to actually fix this would have been to glue in an entirely new page and start completely over. That's a lot of work. It's a waste of paper. And because I ended up messing up the word witness too, I probably would have been really mad when I pasted over an entire new sheet, redid the entire thing, fixed the word persevere, and then still messed up witness and had to leave it with a mistake on it anyway. So in the end, I'm glad I didn't try to fix this. Um, it is what it is. If you're recreating this page for your journal, persevere has only 2 R's in it, not 3, and witness only has 1 T in it. But yeah. So a couple of other things. In this text, I use a pastel yellow for the word love, which you cannot read on here. It says persevere, protect, trust, love, lead, fight, pray, meditate, teach, be brave, believe, and witness. Those are the words. Um, Yellow is notoriously hard to work with. Um, as we go through the journal, I'm sure I will use yellow throughout the spreads occasionally, but I plan not to use a lot of yellow. It's very, very hard to pick up on camera. I promise you it looks better in person, but it's not better in the sense that, like, it's easy to read. It's still very, very hard to read. This is something I actually learned in my public speaking class in school. They teach you to never put yellow on slides. This is why you can't really see it. I just want to disclaim that if your favorite color is yellow, you're going to be hard pressed to find pens that do well with text. You're probably going to want to use the yellow for highlights, for shadows, for doodles, for borders and pops of color, highlighting, stickers, washi tape, but not the text itself. This final pen that I'm bringing in is the Monami Live Color pen in black. I really like this pen because it's dual tipped. So some of the text I wrote with one tip, which is like a fine liner. It's about the weight of like a Stadler Tri Plus fine liner. And then the other side is a bullet nib, like a fine tipped marker. So it's actually one of the thickest weighted pens I have, which gives me nice, bold, thick letters without going into like bubble letters, without having to go back and go over it um, twice or something like that. And so I wanted to use that pen for the names to really make them pop off the page and to call your attention to them. So that is what I used here. And then once I finish writing out all of the names, I'm also going to go back in and add a drop shadow with the color that corresponds to the verb on that line. And it just helps to bring the color all the way across the page and make it kind of cohesive. So that was the design decision there. But as I'm writing that out, I just want to read it to you, and maybe say a couple of words about some of the lesser known women. But it says, persevere like Tamar, protect like Miriam, trust like Rahab, love like Ruth, lead like Deborah, fight like Jael, pray like Hannah, mediate like Abigail, teach like Huldah, be brave like Esther, believe like Mary, witness like Mary Magdalene. So, the Mary that I'm saying believe like is Mary, mother of the Messiah. You probably guessed that, but I just wanted to make that reference clear. Um, I think many of these women are women that we talk about often, and you probably know their names, like Mary Magdalene, Mary, mother of Jesus, Esther. You've probably heard of Deborah, Ruth, Rahab, and Miriam are also pretty popular, but there are actually three Tamars in the Bible. The one that I'm talking about here actually could go for could go for either um of the main two Tamars. So I'm not actually going to specify which one I was thinking when I wrote this. But we'll get into the Tamars. Their stories are very interesting. Miriam, of course, being Moses's older sister who followed him as he was in the basket in the Nile and made sure that he got to Pharaoh's daughter, and then led Pharaoh's daughter back to their real mother so that Moses could be nursed. And I view that as kind of her protecting Moses. So we'll talk about her eventually. Rahab was a harlot that saved herself and the spies of Israel. She sided with God and with God's people when they came to Jericho. Of course, you know Ruth, Deborah. Jael is one of the more unknown people. She was a contemporary of Deborah who actually fights in a battle. Well, not in a battle. She kills the commander who is fleeing a battle. We'll put it like that. Hannah was the mother of Samuel, and she was barren. We're gonna talk about barrenness throughout this at some point, and she is one of the examples we will talk about when we get there. Abigail is actually one of David's first wives. She's either his second or third wife. Well, I have a video up about Abigail already if you're curious, but she ends up saving herself and her servants when her husband makes poor decisions concerning David and hospitality. But she is actually kind of mediating a hostile situation, which is why I said mediate like Abigail. Huldah is another lesser known figure. She was a prophetess of the Old Testament, and actually a priest, the king, the commander, like the highest men in the nation. When they become distraught and don't know what to do, they seek out the teachings of Huldah, which is insane. So I had to add her in there, and we're going to talk about her. Of course, we're going to talk about the controversy of women teaching as well, but Huldah was a prophet, and they did seek her out to find knowledge, which in a way is teaching. So, yeah, there's that. Esther, again, one of the more popular women of the Bible, and the two Marys, who are also generally well known. But I did want to point out a little bit about these women and who they are for those who may be like, I've never heard that name before. So those are some highlights. Like I said, there are so many women that I guess could be deserving of being placed on this page. If you want to do a page like this, but you don't want to use these specific women and you have other women in mind, definitely go for it. I can see, even post doing this, I probably created this page, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago. And even in those 7 months, there are new women that I've read about in the Bible that I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I had used that person instead. But in some cases, there are unknown women and their name is too long to put in a list like this. Um, so, you make do, but whatever works for you, that is what I would suggest doing. Um, let's see, what else? Oh, so I think I show this. I did not do this when I was doing the fine tip of the live color pen, but I will end up going back in and at the top write the words strive to, and then in front of the word um brave write the word be. It was very interesting. So all of these are verbs, like persevere is a verb, trust is a verb, pray, right, teach. These are verbs and they're kind of like commands, right? Trust like Rahab. But brave like Esther sounded really weird to me. It like it's to be brave, like you want to be brave. Brave by itself sounded weird. But when I just say brave like Esther, it makes sense. But brave by itself, I feel like is more of like an adjective than a verb. So I felt like I needed to write out the word be brave. But then it seemed a little off too. So I added the word strive to, and that seemed to help because now it's like strive to persevere like Tamar, strive to be brave like Esther. So it seemed like it flowed better. I don't know. I was just playing around with things, trying to make it make sense. And that was a little difficult. You don't have to add the word be or strive to in here if it makes sense to you, or if you choose different examples and use different words and there's no need for it. But that is something that I did to try to help it make sense to me. Other things are, you could always make this text smaller and add doodles. To be honest, you probably could still fit doodles in the page as I've done it if you like uh that, but I do like to maintain some white space. I would like to say that I'm kind of center on the all white space, no white space spectrum. I think I like a little bit of white space with some balance. I don't want my pages to be too bare, but I also don't want them to have too much text. So I thought this was a good balance, and I thought it turned out a lot like the original page. I really liked how this turned out, and um, yeah, this is how I wanted to start the journal. So this is the official page one. It's not actually page one, but it's kind of like page one. Now, this second page that we're setting up today is the main page for the letter A. So I'm going to do kind of an alternation between studying women who start with this letter of the alphabet and then doing maybe like a topical study. So we may do like the letter A, and then we may do a study on the creation and purpose of women. Um, some of these types of topical studies, I've actually already done videos through the Breakfast and Bible series. So it's possible that I will just do the page and not necessarily make a new video for that. We'll see how things go when we get there and what you guys want. And if I find anything new that I didn't say already in the previous video, um, but when I do like the sections for each letter, there will be a letter page, I guess we'll call it, or a chapter start page that has the letter in a big letter. I was gonna say the letter in big letters, but a large version of the letter. And then I will list out all of the women that I'm going to study in that section. And then I'll come back and put the page number by that woman's name um, after I've done it. That way, the navigation or the organization is that you can go to that front the front page where it says table of contents. You can find the letter A. It'll have this page number on it. You can come to this page, and then in there, you can find Abigail, and then go to that page to find information on Abigail. So that was like kind of the ideology between creating this kind of cover page for each chapter. And each section, I picked two colors roughly. There are a couple of sections that I'm probably going to do themes, different types of themes, but basically, we're going with colors. That worked out well for my Woman of God daily devotion journal. I'm using the same sticker set that I used for that, which is from a company called RongRong. I talked a little bit about them in episode 1, so we're not going to beat a dead horse. Um, but for each of these, I will be using those colors in all of the spreads to try to keep it cohesive and to take out some of the thought behind what I'm going to do. You can do whatever kind of themes you want. I thought about doing fruit all the way through. I thought about doing like doodles of like bugs, like ladybugs and fireflies and butterflies and things like that. You can do the same color throughout. You don't have to have any themes whatsoever. You can just do whatever comes to your mind as you're going. I personally like to make things more thematic so that it feels whole, like each section feels like it belongs together. But I also know how I am and I get bored easily, so I want to switch things up. So, changing the color, we may have some font changes as we go from section to section, but for each section, I want to try to keep things kind of the same so it looks cohesive, and then change it up for the next section so that I can still have fun and be creative with it. So you'll see that as it comes out in each page. Right now, I am doodling in different like flower, like a floral pattern within this large block A that I penciled out. And I am doing it in I'm doing it in the color blue. I am using a Monami Plus Pin 3000. It is by the same brand as that live color pen I used on the other page, except these pins are strictly fine liners. They only have one side, one nib. And I really love these pens. These are by far my favorite pens ever because they are fine liners, but the nib is flexible, so you can use them as a brush pen too, which is why I'm doing the lettering in this particular color, because then if I want to write anything with this pen in script, I can do that too. So, that is one thing. I'm just kind of doodling. I don't really know why I went with this floral thing. I actually spent a long time trying to figure out how I wanted these letters to look. And I think I'm going to do the same style for each letter, but I'm not positive. Um, it turned out pretty decent. I don't know. This is what I came up with eventually after looking at tons and tons of letters on Pinterest. And I thought it would be fun to kind of play around with this. And then I'll put some stickers of some girls. One I'm going to put inside the letter A. So, like, she's standing behind the letter A and like leaning on it. And then I'll put another one to the side. So you'll get the pink and the blue kind of coming in. And then I'll put the names of the girls below it. So that's just kind of normal setup. While I'm setting up this page, I want to talk about the studies themselves and how we can go about doing this if you want to follow along. Um, I have a page that I've created for myself where I have literally all of the women listed out, or at least all of the women I could find on different lists on different websites. Um, and I have kind of like this plan of, who I'm going to study. I have them in alphabetical order. And I plan to share that with you. Um, I'm still debating a couple of things. I right now I have that list in Notion. And so in this particular video, I'm probably going to add the link from Notion for you, but I want to add this to my website and make it a little cleaner, and also add in information about the pages that I'm doing. So I'm still kind of mulling over how I want to share this list with you, but for now, I'm going to share with you the rough planning list that I have. That way, if you want to do a journal like this yourself, you also have the list of women and you can follow along. I also want you to have the list so that you can see possibly what I'm going to be doing next. I don't really have any way of knowing up front how long it will take me to journal through studying a particular woman. Like, for instance, Abigail has a lot of information about her. I mean, there's a whole chapter that talks about Abigail and what happened with her. But then later, she's referenced when David goes on the run. And also, like, she's kidnapped while David is on the run. So there's lots of things to talk about when it comes to Abigail, lots of things to write out. Whereas there are other women that it's just like, this person was so and so's wife, and we don't know anything about them at all. So, what will I say about them? It probably won't take me that long to write about them, and it probably won't take me that long to talk about them. So, we might be able to get through like 3 or 4 of those within like 5 to 10 minutes. So that makes it really hard for me to like end this episode and say, next week we're gonna study this person, and this person. Because maybe we only get to one of those people, or maybe we go even deeper and get to like 6 people, and I don't really know. So I want to put the list out so that you can study at your own pace too. Um, and that you don't, I mean, you can always, screenshot the list here, but if you want to, continue, you can. Also, if this series just goes horribly wrong and I have to stop doing the series, or can't do the series, or I miss a week for some reason, then you're able to continue on without needing me to publish the next video that has the letter B and all of the women with the letter B. So I will make that available for you so you can follow along, so that you can go at your own pace, etc., etc. So while I was rambling about the list of women that I'm going to make available for you, I added in a drop shadow on the letter A with an Ecoline marker or brush pen, and it actually did bleed through a little bit. The Ecolines are my juiciest brush pens, and I really love them, but they definitely need thick paper. This paper is 180 GSM, and I still got a little bit of bleed through. So I was really disappointed. And that's a pastel color. So if I had done this with like black, I probably would have had some difficulties and some issues. So you definitely want to be mindful of the paper that you're using and how it's going to work with whatever pen you're using. Ultimately, it's okay. It's not bad. I probably won't be using them with heavy pressure, but I'm still using them throughout the spread because I really like them, and I like the way they write. I'll just be careful not to press too hard when I use them in future parts of this section. But I did want to point out what pen I was using and how I got that drop shadow. Now I have this sticker, and I thought it'd be cute to have her kind of like poking through the hole of the A. But what I didn't realize is like I cut out the middle section to give this illusion that she's behind the letter. But where I cut it, I thought the legs would still be attached, so I could just stick the whole thing under and like line it up where it should be. But I cut it so that each leg was separate. So then I had to try to place them correctly. And y'all, that was so difficult. I was really nervous that she was going to come out with her legs kind of crooked looking. She is kind of leaning a little bit, but I thought that that was okay. It just looks like she's standing like that, like maybe one foot is in front of the other. But I thought it was cute. I thought it was a fun way of doing this, and so this lady is wearing pink, which contrasts with the blue. So we've got the blue and the pink, and then I picked this other lady who is in blue to bring back some of that blue balance and bring in this theme of pink and blue for the letter A. I I can't really say how I chose these particular women. I definitely picked the woman in pink based on the fact that I thought she would fit behind this letter and look nice. Honestly, the girl in blue, like her skirt has these pleats that kind of match the pleats on the pink lady's suit. And I think that's really the whole reason why I chose these 2 women in particular. Um, no real rhyme or reason there, but it turned out well. But after I put those stickers in, I still felt like the white space was weird, like this kind of V of white space between the letter A and this girl was bothering me. Like I really wanted her to be flipped the other way for like symmetry or something, and she's not. And I didn't have a sticker that was. So I ended up just writing some text in here that kind of describes what this page is, and then on the fly decided that I was going to color code the list of women so that you can just glance at it and tell which woman is discussed in the Old Testament versus which woman is discussed in the New Testament. Now, I will say, I plan to do this for each letter now that I've done it for the first one, and I like this idea. But there are some women that are actually discussed in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. So, for instance, like Sarah. Sarah is introduced in Genesis, but she's discussed in, I think, Hebrews, because the disciples and the apostles, and sometimes even the Messiah, reference back to women of the Old Testament, mentioning what they've done, or that they had faith, or that they didn't have faith, or whatever. So for those women, I will be color coding them towards when they're first mentioned. So Sarah will be whatever color represents the Old Testament for the letter S. So I just want to throw that out there. I can't remember if any of the women in the letter A section are like that, but that's essentially how I decided to shape these. Once again, you see me pull out a scrap piece of paper and do some math. Like I said, I have this list that has all of the women listed, and it has a number telling me how many women I have listed. So I looked at the letter A and determined how many women I would be writing out, and then I counted the number of boxes I had left on the page to see if they would all fit in a single line. They did not, so I knew that I had to do 2 different columns. And once I decided to do 2 columns, I needed to make them even columns. So, of course, I did the math. I mean, I just divided by 2 to figure out, where they should be. And then I started listing out those women one by one. So first I'm going to go and do, the left column, and then I'll do the right column. And then I'm going to come back in and put in like a little dot beside each name, like a bullet, which will have the color that goes with that color key that I added at the top of the page. When I go back and do that, I'm going to be using the Zig Clean Color Dot. I used that in the first episode for that initial page. I love the Zig Clean Color Dots. They're great for creating like little bullets, and they're good for a lot of things. They're really fun. You can do a lot of different things with them artistically and stylistically. So I brought them back for this. I'm using the pink and I think it's called the light pink. One of them is like pink and one of them is light pink, or maybe it's pink and magenta. I will have it written out in the description box exactly, but it's a lighter pink and a darker pink. I could have done pink and blue, just like the theme, but I felt like the blue from the woman's dress and the blue in the letter A was so much blue that I didn't feel like the shadow and the lady in pink added enough pink to the page to balance out the fact that it's pink and blue. So I wanted to do all of the bullets in pink. I also struggled with should the Old Testament be blue and the New Testament be pink, or the other way around? And I know it doesn't matter, but in my mind, it very much did matter. And I think a lot of this, in the first episode, I talked about how people associate blue with masculinity and pink with femininity, even though this has nothing to do with the Bible. It's not biblical. To be honest, it's not even really traditional. It's more of a modern tradition. Like, it's traditional in the sense that it's common in our modern era, and like our mothers will have the same association and our grandmothers may have the same association. But if you went back to like our great grandmother's era, this would start to fall apart pretty quickly. So like it's a weird thing, but because it does exist, I think mentally I was thinking very hard about this color like this color key for delineating Old Testament and New Testament, and blue just was seeming odd to me, and pink was saying like the colors were saying something that they shouldn't have been saying, so I just removed that. I don't know if anybody else experiences weird things like that, but sometimes I do. And it's weird because I don't really feel that way when I actually get into the studies. I have filmed the the third episode where I start the first study, and I didn't think about this at all. But for some reason on this page, the colors and the symbolism of the colors was really tripping me up. So I just did this list in all pink, just to quiet my mind. Um, and no, what I just said about, how we interpret these colors today, that is not why I chose to start off with this color combination. I literally just randomly selected color combinations and I wrote them all out up front. You will see that when you look at the page that I'm sharing for planning. I just picked random colors that I thought would look good together, and this seemed as good of a place to start as any. So, yeah, there you have it. Anyway, this completes all of the setup. Next episode, we will be starting in on an actual Bible study, which means we will also pray before we start the episode. So be ready for that. And also, it will still be on Fridays at 8 p.m. I didn't say that in the other video, I don't think. Or maybe I did. I can't remember. But Fridays, 8 p.m. Bring your notebook, bring your pens. Let's journal together. Let's learn together. Let's pray together. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.